That is, social problem is an undesirable or abnormal condition which is against the established norms and welfare of society. কার কাউসার গো হ্যাঁ কাউসার গো দিছি সিগাও একটু That is, a social problem is an undesirable or abnormal condition which is against the established norms and welfare of society and disrupts the normal life of people in the social structure, for the remedy of which the people of society feel the need to take joint efforts. Social law and social reforms are related to each other. There is a close relationship between social law and social reform. Both social law and social reform help in bringing about the protection of social work. They are considered as the supporting force of modern social work and conduct social movements to eliminate evil practices of society. Social law conducts social reform activities to stop oppression of the neglected classes in society. Social law and social reform originate through collective initiatives, public opinion formation, public support, and movements. As a result, there is a similarity between both in terms of origin. There is a close relationship between social law and social reform. Both social law and social reform help in bringing about the protection of social work. They are considered as the supporting force of modern social work and conduct social reform movements to eliminate the evil practices of society. One of the main goals of social law is to create a legal basis for the solution of current problems in prevention of future problems. Social policies are formulated to deal with problems through the implementation of social laws enacted by the state sovereign authority, and on this basis social problems are remedied and prevented through the implementation of social plans, programs, and social service activities. Under social law, various legal and statutory social institutions such as courts, prisons, correctional facilities, probation, parole, juvenile courts, mental hospital, drug addiction treatment centers, etc., directly remedy and prevent social problems by controlling. One of the goals of social law is to create a legal basis for the solution of current problems and prevention of future problems. Social policies are formulated to deal with problems through the implementation of social laws enacted by the sovereign state. by the state sovereign authority. On this basis, social problems are remedied and prevented through the implementation of social plans, programs, and social service activities. Under social law, various legal and statutory social institutions such as courts, prisons, correctional facilities, probation, parole, juvenile courts, mental hospital, drug addiction treatment center, etc., directly remedy and prevent social problems by controlling deviant behaviors. The Muslim Family Act of 1961 was enacted to establish the rights and ensure financial security of Muslim women in Bangladesh. This act was enacted to regulate family matters such as polygamy, divorce, maintenance, inheritance, etc., especially in the Muslim community before the promulgation of this ordinance in 1961. There were notable inconsistencies in marriage and related matters such as polygamy, divorce, maintenance, inheritance, etc. Therefore, this act was enacted in 1961 to implement some recommendations of Marriage and Family Law Commission. The Muslim Family Act of 1961 was enacted 1961. The Muslim Family Act of 1961. The Muslim Family Act of 1961. The Muslim Family Act of 1961 was enacted to regulate family matters such as polygamy, divorce, maintenance, inheritance, etc., especially in the Muslim community before the promulgation of this ordinance in 1961. There were some notable inconsistencies in marriage and related matters such as polygamy, divorce, maintenance, inheritance, etc. Therefore, this act was enacted in 1961 to implement some recommendations of the marriage and law uh, to implement some recommendations of the Marriage and Family Law Commission. What kind of protection do women get under Muslim family law? The Muslim Family Act of 1961 protects neglected women, protects the interest of neglected women of the people, and provide them with comprehensive security. This law aims to prevent divorce and polygamy by imposing on the husband's rights to leave and take his wife at will. As According to the said law, the dower money in the marriage contract, the method of payment is specifically mentioned. The husband obligated to pay the entire dowry amount as soon as the wife asks for it. That is, the Muslim family law has made significant contributions in Muslim society in resolving the complexities of polygamy, instant divorce, inheritance, maintenance, etc. Therefore, this law is Generally, child marriage is a marriage that takes place before the child is old enough to be married legally. Each country sets the age of marriage for boys and girls by law. What the? Uh, Marriage before the age specified by law is called child marriage. In the context of child marriage law of Bangladesh, it can be said that cases where girls are married before the age of 18 and boys before the age of 21 are called child marriages. Under circumstances, wife have the right. The Muslim Family Act of 1961 provides for divorce of wives. According to the law, wives have the right to divorce the following right to divorce in the following cases: if the husband is absent for up to 4 years, if he does not provide maintenance to his wife for up to 2 years, if the husband is imprisoned for up to 7 years or more, if the husband is impotent, if the husband is insane or suffers from contagious diseases, um, if he behaves cruelly towards, and if he remarries without the wife's permission. The wife can divorce the marriage by filing a divorce case in the court and obtaining a decree. The characteristics of the Muslim family law include: one, guaranteeing the inheritance of the property to orphans; one, guaranteeing inheritance of property to orphans; legal obligation to support one's wife and marriage; introduction of registration system as a document; marriage introduction and registration system as a document. What is meant by juvenile court? A special type of court formed to try juvenile offenders is called juvenile court. Juvenile court is novel addition in the field of correction of juvenile crime. In this court, formed through the Children's Act of 1974, Children's Act of 1974, Children's Act of 1974. Juvenile Court was formed by the Children's Act of 1974, Children's Act of 1974, Children's Act of 1974. Attempts are made to rehabilitate and correct juvenile offenders by analyzing the reasons for their crimes. Attempts are made to rehabilitate and correct juvenile offenders by analyzing the reasons for their crimes. According to the Muslim Family Act of 1961, the responsibility of maintaining the wife lies with the husband. According to this law, if the husband is unable to maintain his wife or has more than one wife and fails to maintain them equally, then the wife or wives can complain in writing to the chairman of arbitration council. Arbitration council, chairman of arbitration council. In this case, the arbitration council can the husband to specify the direct the husband to specify the amount of money for the maintenance of the wife. Arbitration council can direct the husband to specify the amount of money for the maintenance of the wife. Arbitration council. Okay, what is an arbitration council? Why was the Muslim Family Act of 1961 enacted? The Muslim Family Act was first enacted in Bangladesh to establish and provide security to Muslim women. This Muslim Family Act was enacted to regulate family matters or personal relationships such as polygamy, divorce, maintenance, inheritance, etc. Especially in the Muslim society, before the promulgation of this ordinance in 1961, there were some inconsistencies in marriage and related matters such as polygamy, divorce, and maintenance, inheritance, etc. Therefore, this explain the role of Muslim Family Act of 1961 in protecting the rights and interests of women in society. The role of Muslim Family Act of 1961 is very important in practical needs in several important areas related to women's rights and welfare, including child marriage registry, divorce and separation, maintenance and dowry, polygamy, inheritance. This law has provided an opportunity to protect the interests of the neglected women of society and to gain comprehensive security. This law has been tried to protect a healthy society by fixing the age of marriage of children, preventing child marriage, preventing child marriage, leaving and taking wives at will of the husband, preventing divorce and polygamy and family breakdown. This law is designed so that the divorced wife does not fail to present written evidence and deprived of dowry and maintenance. Mm, Guaranteeing inheritance of property to orphans, guaranteeing inheritance of property to orphans, legal obligation to maintain the wives, introducing registration as a document of marriage. The importance of the Children's Act of 1974 for the proper development and welfare of children is undeniable. Under it, juvenile crime correction institutions have been established in Tongi and Joshore in Gazipur. Tongi and Joshore in Gazipur. Tongi and Joshore in Gazipur. Juvenile crime correction institutions have been established in Tongi and Joshore in Gazipur. The branches of institutions are juvenile court, juvenile detention center, and correctional institution. These institutions are making an effective contribution to the correction of increasing crime. There are several limitations of the Child Act of 1974. There are several limitations of the Child Act of 1974 because still a large number of children in the country in our country are living in inhumane conditions due to neglect and uh, deprivation uh, because still a large number of children in our country are living in inhumane conditions due to neglect and deprivation. This act does not mention anything about the basic human needs of children. This act does not mention anything about the human needs of children, recreational activities and responsibilities of the people. The aspect of child welfare has been completely neglected in this act. The aspect of child welfare has been completely neglected in this act. This act has emphasized on correction of juvenile offenders, but the aspect of curing the circumstances due to which children or adolescents commit crime has not been resolved. Dowry is a social disease. Dowry is an inhumane practice of oppression of women. Dowry degrades the dignity of women and creates obstacles in the establishment of women's rights. Therefore, dowry is called a curse. Mention three features of the Children's Act of 1974. The first step to ensure the overall welfare of children in Bangladesh is the Children's Act of 1974. This act has taken measures to prevent abuse of children in order to ensure the fair development of children. Juvenile courts, correctional centers were established, as well as restrictions were imposed on the publication of the identity of the accused child in newspaper. Guidelines were also added regarding child labor. The Women and Children Abuse Act of 2000 has a strict punishment provision for women traffickers. If any person is bringing a woman If any person is bringing a woman from abroad or traffics her abroad or sells or buys or sells her and hands over a woman for the purpose of engaging her in prostitution or any immoral activities, or keeps a woman in his custody, or keeps a woman in his custody for any such purposes, then that person will be punished with death penalty or life imprisonment or rigorous imprisonment for not more than 20 years but not less than 10 years, and additional fine. Therefore, uh, the role of Women and Children Abuse Act 2000 in preventing women trafficking is very significant. All previously effective laws on violence against women and children, due to inadequacy and incompetence and failure, the government has completely revised, amended, and reformed the prevention law and formulated the Women and Children Abuse Act 2000, amended 2003. The previous law on child abuse and women abuse do not have clear concept on child abuse, rape, kidnapping, trafficking, etc. There is no mention of punishment for acid throwing, separate court system, or any special method of investigation. For these reasons, the need for a new act on women and children abuse arises. Violence against women, giving or receiving dowry, acid throwing, the prevention of law, the previous laws on kidnapping, child trafficking, etc., could not be completely successful in protecting the interests and establishing the rights of women due to various limitations and errors. Therefore, the government has completely revised, amended, and expanded the limitations and errors of previous laws and formulated the Prevention of Abuse of Women and Children Act of 2000. Compared to previous laws in force, this law has taken some effective and realistic steps in preventing abuse of women and children, especially in terms of setting a time limit, forming different courts, and appointing judges. Clearly identifying the areas of abuse, etc. Prevention of women's Abuse of Women and Children Act 2000 is very effective, which plays a significant role in preventing abuse of women and children and protecting the interests of women. The Hindu Marriage Registration Act of 2012 has mentioned the preservation and registration book because mm, any information may have to be provided at any time as required by the parties of the marriage. Moreover, the marriage register will start the marriage registration every year with a new serial number. Moreover, if the appointment of the registrar is cancelled or suspended or duly terminated for any reason, it has been mentioned that all the books of his office should be deposited in with the office of the concerned district register, so that there is no difficulty in providing any information as required by the parties to the marriage in future. For the purpose of registration of Hindu marriage as per the Hindu Marriage Registration Act of 2012, the government shall appoint a person as Hindu registrar in the area specified from time to time. In the case of city corporation areas, and in each upajala, in the case of the areas outside the city corporation area, any person so appointed shall be called a Hindu marriage register. For the purpose of this act, the qualification for the appointment of Hindu marriage as a Hindu marriage register to free to the fees to be collected by the Hindu marriage register in the mm, jurisdiction jurisdiction and other matters connected therewith shall be prescribed by rules. Explain the contribution of social worker in identifying social problems. The main goal of social legislation is to solve the socio-economic problems of society. It is not possible to solve all problems in one day. Therefore, laws have been formulated to solve problems gradually by identifying the problem according to the severity, nature, and cause of origin. In this case, a social worker identifies a specific problem and draws the attention of the public and the media to examine its severity and tries uh, to build public opinion on it. He makes the public aware of the need to enact laws to solve the problem. Therefore, a social worker plays a very important role in identifying social problems and enacting laws to solve the problems on priority basis. A professional social worker plays a very effective role in collecting adequate and accurate information to formulate implementable social laws. A social worker can use his professional knowledge and skills to help the relative social workers, relevant lawmakers in various ways to formulate social laws that are implementable to the maximum extent without making them unrealistic. Social worker collects accurate and necessary information on the subject and provides it to the policymakers so that social laws are formulated in light of real information. Ninety-one. 91. X is a social law. The law is for women of Bangladesh, known as the Security Shield. This law contains provisions related to dowry, divorce, marriage, child marriage, etc. Udip has told about the Muslim Family Act of 1961. Muslim family law is a unique addition to the history of social laws. Muslim family law has been enacted to establish the rights and provide security to Muslim women in Bangladesh. This law was enacted to regulate family matters or personal relationships such as polygamy, dower, divorce, maintenance, inheritance, etc. Especially in Muslim society, for a long time there was a lack of legal framework in the Muslim family field. As a as a result, this ordinance was enacted in 1961 to implement some recommendations of the Marriage and Family Law Commission. The Muslim Family The Muslim Family Act 1961, directed at Udip, is playing an excellent role in the social law of Bangladesh. This law protects the interests of women and determines the responsibility and duties of husbands towards his wives. This law plays a major role in establishing the rights and freedoms of women in society. It creates an opportunity for girls to consider their opinions on marriage. On the other hand, by determining the age of marriage, child marriage is discouraged, so family chaos does not arise. On the other hand, it also plays a helpful role in preventing population growth. And through this law, taking second wife without permission of the first wife is considered a punishable crime. So neglected women in society have an opportunity to gain separate status. This law is particularly significant in preventing family breakdowns before the divorce is enforced. Initiatives are taken to establish family ties through local organizations or arbitration council. Again, under this law, women also get the legal rights to collect their dowry, which is one of their rights. Corruption is reduced through marriage registration. Udip is told about dowry. Actor. Ahidi to aseyi. So aquí no. Aquí el lady shop School social work is a practical branch of professional social work practiced in schools. School social work is the practice of social work that is used to make students who are inattentive in school drop out of school and get involved in various types of criminal activities suitable for school environment and studies. The Dowry Prohibition Act of 1980. The Dowry Prohibition Act of 1980. The Dowry Prohibition Act of 1980. Dowry is a social disease that degrades women in society, creates obstacles to women's development in Bangladesh. Violence against women or violence against women is increasing day by day, and most of these violent incidents occur due to dowry, due to demand for dowry and related reasons. Women are often harassed, oppressed, and abused in their in laws' houses. As a result, incidents like martial discord, family unrest, and divorce are happening frequently, which we observe with enthusiasm. Dib has found that within 3 months of their marriage, her husband Assad began to physically and mentally torture Nazma for dowry. The Dowry Prohibition Act was enacted with the aim of freeing women like Nazma from the curse of dowry and establish them in society. The act was enacted throughout Bangladesh from October 1st, 1981, October 1st, 1981, October 1st, 1981, October 1st, 1981 was enacted to prevent undesirable situations created by people like Assad. I mentioned in Udip. The negative impact of dowry in our society is increasing day by day. Along with this, crimes like violence against women, and femicide are increasing. In this context, Dowry Prohibition Act of 1980 was enacted. Through this law, the necessary measures have been mentioned to prevent dowry from the society. The Dowry Prohibition Act was enacted in 1980 but came into effect nationwide on October 1st, 1981. And the act states that any person directly or indirectly demands dowry from the guardian of the bride or groom, that person shall be punished with imprisonment for a term of 5 years, shall not be less than 1 year, or with fine or with both. In view of the demand for dowry from Udib, Nazma's husband shall be punished with imprisonment for a term of 5 years, shall not be less than 1 year, or with fine or with both. In addition, he shall also receive the punishment of above punishment for physically abusing Nazma while demanding dowry. Rimi can seek help under the 1983 Violence Against Women Act to seek justice for her husband's torture and abuse. Rimi can seek help under the 1983 Violence Against Women Act to seek justice for her husband and tortures and abuse. In the present times, violence against women is increasing gradually. Every day, some women is being abused in some way or the other. The Violence Against Women Act of 1983 is one of the various ways to stop violence against women. Udipak, Rimi's husband, is a drug addict. He often comes at night uh, intoxicated and tortures and abuses Rimi. In this situation, Rimi can take the help from this said law. The Violence Against Women Act was enacted in 1983 to prevent violence against women by giving exemplary punishment to those who torture women. This ordinance in 1983, known as the Cruelty to Women's Punishment of Cruelty Ordinance, this law applies to all citizens of Bangladesh regardless of where they live. The provisions of this ordinance shall be effective and notwithstanding any provisions of any other law currently in force, any woman who is a victim of torture will receive justice under this law. Chamat. The law applicable to take appropriate actions against Rimi's tyrant husband's illegal drug business is narcotic control ordinance of 1989. Narcotic Control Ordinance of 1989, 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 Narcotic Control Ordinance of 1989. Narcotic Control Ordinance of 1989. Narcotic Control Ordinance of 1989. Drug addiction is one of the serious social problems of Bangladesh. To save the country and the nation from this terrible situation, the National Narcotic Control Board was formed on 20th January 1989 to save the nation. The National Narcotics Control Board was formed on January 20th, 1989. The National Narcotics Board Control Board. The National Narcotics Control Board. The National Narcotics Control Board was formed on January 20th, 1989, and the Narcotics Ordinance was enforced on 2nd January 1990, and the Narcotics Control Ordinance was enforced on 2nd January 1990 with the aim of treating, rehabilitating drug addicts and controlling drugs under Udip Rimi's husband is involved in marijuana and fentanyl business, and the said law can be applied against his business. The measures that can be taken in the context of this law are the formation of narcotic control board, banning the production and use of drugs, closing drug shops, making list of drug addicts, establishing drug addiction treatment centers, making provisions for punishment and provisions for various terms of punishment have been made for carrying, market, cultivating, storing drugs, etc. In violation of this law, the current law on the base of on more careful approach and analysis have the ambiguities and complexities in the relevant matters in the Dangerous Drug Act. The crime of Sharifa's husband is a violation of the Violence Against Women Act of 1983. It is desirable to regulate the external behavior of people in society, protecting their rights and interests, and implement necessary reforms. एक और अटका हो. Social laws are enacted to create socio-economic environment and achieve social progress and welfare. One such law is the Women's Torture Act of 1983. This law has been enacted with the aim of preventing brutal treatment of women. It is seen in Udip that Sharifa's father has promised to buy Sharifa's future husband a bicycle before marriage, but he could not keep it. Therefore, Sharifa's husband sometimes tortures Sharifa, which is punishable crime under the said law. The Women's Torture Act was enacted in 1983 to prevent women's torture by giving exemplary punishment to those who torture women. In Bangladesh, countless women are dying or being tortured day after day due to dowry. This section clearly states if a woman's husband or her husband's parents, guardians, or relatives cause her death, serious injury, or attempts to do so, for dowry, the accused will be sentenced to death or life imprisonment for 14 years of rigorous imprisonment and a fine. Therefore, it can be said that if a man tortures his wife for dowry, he will be punished. The role of the referred law on violence against women. Violence against women is an important ordinance to prevent brutal treatment of women, although Sharif's Calling. Calling game. I'm not on talk. নায়িকা চামিস
আগের বাজারে 330 আর এখানে কত টাকা। মোবাইলটা চার্জ দিতে হইব মনে হলো। আরে বাথরুমের সামনে ইয়া নাই। তোর প্যান্টটা ধন লাগলে আর নাই থাক, কালকা দুম আজকে পারতাম না।